Want to impress your crush this Valentine's Day? Let me show you how you can combine some HTML and CSS in order to make your special someone feel a little more love. So this is what we're going to go ahead and create in this video lesson here. And as you can see here, I'm just going to refresh. Notice that we get a bunch of confetti hearts falling down, they're fading, and it only goes for a certain amount of time. Now, the other special thing that we have going on is that we're pulling a name from a URL up at the top. So that's what's going to make this custom for you to send that special someone and make it feel a little more personal. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with a blank slate of code, and then we're going to show you how you can get this up on CodePen so that way it can actually be visited by your special someone. All right. So if that's something that you want to watch, let's go ahead and continue. All right. So I'm in Visual Studio Code here, and I have the browser over here on my right-hand side. And then I have an index.html file, a style.css file, and then an index.js file, styles, as well as index.js. They're just going to be blank for now. But inside the index.html, we're going to do our standard boilerplate code. And in Visual Studio Code, we just use the exclamation mark and hit the tab. That gives us some boilerplate information. And I'm going to go down here to the title, and I'm just going to call this one Valentine. Okay. Crush. Now in the body here, we're just going to have just a real brief couple elements in here that we need. And so I'm going to hit the H1, hit the tab, and this is going to be the Valentine, and then we'll call this day, and then confetti. And then the next line here, we're going to make this one the message. And so I'm just going to do a standard div, and then I'm going to use the ID, which is the hashtag. And then I'm going to hit the tab, and now I get an ID on here, and I'm going to make this one message. So this is where the message will display. In order for me to work with stuff before the JavaScript gets on there, I'm just going to put in something like this. You are loved by John. Okay. And that's really it for now. Later on, we're going to add another div on here to help us draw the heart. We're going to draw the heart utilizing CSS. That's not an image that we're using at all. Okay, so now let's head over to our style.css. All right, so we're in the CSS. I created this real quick just because we're going to be utilizing it more than once as far as these colors go. And then I wanted a real simple spot for us to put the heart size. That way you can just change it in one spot and it affects all of the hearts. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of pre-planning here, and that way we can reference these colors. So maybe you wanted a different color for the secondary color or the primary color. You can go ahead and change it up here without having to hunt for it in the CSS. So that's what we're going to utilize here for the root. Now, the next thing that we would like to do in our CSS is we would like to go for the body of the web browser, right? The HTML. And we need to change the background color along with some font families that we chose. So let's go ahead and apply some things to the body. So for that, I'm just going to do body and then open up the curly brackets. Now, as far as what we should go in here, let's do the background. Let's go ahead and change that to, I already have a pre-hex in here. And since I'm only using it one time on this one, I did not create a special variable for it. So it's going to be ffccd and then 5. And then we're going to put that semicolon in there. Next is going to be the font family. And for it, we're just going to make sure that we have Comic Sans and then sans serif. Now, I'm noticing over here that nothing's changing, right? And that's because we haven't linked our page to our browser here. We haven't said, hey, the HTML, we have the CSS page. Can you use it, please? So let's come over here and let's link it. So that all goes in the head section. And so I can just come in here and just do a link. We can choose the CSS option here, and style.css is what I named my CSS. So already I know that my CSS is now connected. It's now linked. I can go back here and I can start applying some other attributes. So let's go ahead and add a few more here. We want to have the color of the text be our main color. So we can do color, and we can change that to utilize our variable here. And we're going to do dash dash main color. And now we have this nice pink for the text. Now, I would like to center all the text that happens to be on the body. So I can do text align center. And then I'm going to do a little bit of padding just to bring this down just a little. Padding, we're going to do 20 pixels on all sides. And then later on, we're going to make sure that with our hearts that come down and trickle down, we want to make sure that we don't have any scroll bars. And so, matter of fact, let's just go ahead and add that now. We're going to do the overflow to be hidden. Okay. This will prevent the scroll bars from showing up because we're going to have these hearts start at the top and work its way down all the way to the bottom. All right. The H1, let's go ahead and apply some styling to it. Again, stuff very minimal here. For the H1 that we have, we're just going to do a margin top of 50 pixels, and we'll do it like so. Okay. All right. So now that we have it, let's talk about the message. So the message here, eventually we are going to want the message to not even be there, and we want it to fade in. But for now, because we're just styling it, we haven't worked any of the logic out for making it fade in. For now, we're just going to apply a few simple attributes for the message. So let's go ahead and do that. When it comes to the message, we're going to utilize the hashtag, and we're going to type message. And we're going to want the font size. We're going to set that equal to 2EM. And then for the margin top, we're going to set that to 20 pixels. And just so that we can start thinking about our transition on wanting it to fade, we can go ahead and start applying this right here, but we're not going to see anything quite yet. So I'm going to put a note here to come back. I'm going to make the opacity, I'm going to set that to 1, but I do want to start this off hidden. All right, so I do want this to start off hidden, but for now, I'm going to have it set to 1. So I'm going to come back to this one. And then for the transition, we're going to do opacity. We're going to have it come in 1 second, and then we'll do an ease in, ease out. Okay, again, we're not going to see anything happen right now, but we will later on. Now, let me go ahead and check a few things. All right, that all looks great. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to start making a heart. Now, in order for us to make the heart, we need to head back over to the HTML page so that way we can just put a simple div there that will allow us to start seeing a heart on the page, and it's just for creation only. Okay, so let's go to the HTML page. All right, so now we're on the HTML page. We need to add just a spot right here, which is fine, towards the end of the body. And again, we just need a real simple div with a class of heart. So for it, I'm just going to do dot heart, hit the tab button, and notice that I do get a div with the class of heart. We don't need to put anything in here because we're just going to let CSS kind of help us out. So in our CSS file, we can come down here. Let's go ahead and do heart. And we do want to make sure that our position is absolute. And then we're going to supply a width and a height for this. And so the width is going to be our heart size. The next is our height. That's going to be our heart size. So really right now we're just making a square, and let's go ahead and make that background. We're going to make it red. Okay. So now we see a little square pop up right down here. The thing that we want to do for this is, I'm always reminded of a little magic trick on how can you make a heart look like a diamond? Well, you need to rotate it just a little bit. And so we're going to utilize the transform property, and we are going to rotate it 45 degrees. So now it looks like a diamond on a card. And our plan for this is we're going to put a circle here to kind of give us the appearance of the heart. Okay. We're going to utilize the before and after to accomplish this. So we're going to put one on before, we're going to put one on after, and it's going to look exactly like, okay. So next we need to come down here and we need to say, you know what, we're going to do a heart before, and then we're also going to do one after. So in here, we definitely need content with an empty string. We are going to have the position absolute. And as far as the width and height of this, we are going to utilize the same one of our heart size, right? Now, I do want to preface this with, don't go and start trying to create a different heart size all the way up. If you are interested in changing the heart size, we'll provide you with some more advanced CSS in order to get different heart sizes if that's something that you're looking to do. All right. Now, the background color of this is also going to be red. And notice that we are getting another square, put it right here, but we would like to make this a circle. Now, in order for it to be a circle, we need to go ahead and do a border radius of 50%. So let's go ahead and do a border radius of 50%, right? Okay, so basically we have two circles here, and we need to position them properly, one on the left, one on the right. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that in the CSS. So let's focus right now on the before. So we'll do heart before, okay? And we want the top on this to be minus 10 pixels, okay? And then we want the left to be 0. And then we're going to close this off here, all right? Next, we're going to do the after. And for this, we want to have the following. We want to do, the top is going to be 0, and then the left is going to be minus 10. And then we're going to go ahead and close off those brackets. So you can kind of see how we moved those circles into position, even though they were right here. Okay, so now we have our heart. We should be good to go for it. Let's see what we need to do next. All right, so we're almost done with this heart. Let's go ahead and simulate the falling action with it. And we're going to go ahead and set up some keyframes that would work for this, okay? So the keyframes, let's go ahead and create one called fall. And so I'm going to just do at keyframes, and then we're going to call it fall. And then inside here, at the 0% of going through this, we would like to start at the top at a negative 50 pixels. We want to set that opacity to 1, meaning that we want to see it. And then as it's reaching towards the bottom, okay, so we're changing the top of the heart to no longer be above the browser. We're coming all the way down at the bottom, and we want that opacity to be 0. And as we are getting to 100%, we want to rotate the heart 90 degrees. Okay, so how do we include all this? Well, we come all the way back up to our heart, and then this is where we're going to add this animation sequence. And so we're going to say, and here we'll say animation. We want to utilize the fall. Let's go ahead and do 2.5 seconds. And then we're going to do linear infinite. Okay. And so now you can see that as that heart is falling, it's slowly fading and all the way to the end of it. I think I can maybe simulate a little bit of this by zooming out. But as you can see, the heart is falling. It's rotating all the way to the 45. So now that we know it works, we really don't need the heart anymore. So this is where we're going to come over here to our index.html, and I'm going to remove this heart because we're going to add it in JavaScript and let JavaScript do all of the dirty work for us. So that way when somebody goes to the page, it knows the name. It will apply the name down here by replacing everything. And then the JavaScript will also be in charge of starting and stopping the hearts, because like we don't want this to go on forever. So there's going to be some sort of limit to that. So let's go into the JavaScript and see what we have to do there. All right, so we do need to connect our JavaScript file here. So that way we're able to do some work on the "You Are Loved by John," as well as apply some confetti to the page. Now, the way that I'm going to break this down into a couple parts, I know that I need to basically have a function to be ran once the page gets done loading. And then I'd also like to have that function kind of be in charge of not only triggering the hearts to come down, but I also want it to be responsible for changing this message here and showing it on the page, applying a nice transition fade for it. So let's go ahead and dive into the index.js file. And here, I'm just going to go ahead and create a function here called send love. So I'll do function send love. It doesn't take any parameters whatsoever. And again, I'm just doing some baby steps here just to make sure that I can change the message. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a name. I'm just going to go ahead and create a name here. We'll say let name equal, and we'll do Beth. That way we see an actual change here. And then I want to go out there and grab this element here so that way I can change the inner HTML of it. So in order to do that, I need to know what ID did I use for it. And here I have an ID of message. So now I know I can utilize get element and just go out there and grab the message. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say let message equal, and then I'm going to go ahead and do document by ID, and I just want to grab the message, right? Now, once I have that, now I can actually apply the message. So let's do this. We'll say message dot, and then we're going to utilize those back ticks there. And then we're going to say you're loved. And then we want to actually utilize the name variable that we have up here. And I went ahead and add an exclamation mark. Okay. Now, once we've done that, now it's time to run this function. And we can do something like this. We can do send love, left and right parenthesis. And now we can see that our browser now has said, you are loved, Beth. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted to do. Okay, so the next step that I would like us to do is let's go ahead and add that nice transition fade so that it fades in instead of out. So I'm going to go ahead and come over to our styles page, and I'm going to change that opacity down to 0. Now over here in our index, as you can see, it's gone because the opacity is 0, but I need to set some sort of timeout where I want a delay for that transition to happen. And the way that I'm going to do this here is I'm going to apply this. I'm going to say, hey, after 100 milliseconds here, I want it to fade in. So hopefully we see a little bit of a fade here. This gives the browser a chance to recognize that there has been a change and it's going to fade in. So we do have to do this sneaky little trick here of setting a timeout, and that way you're able to see that fade in. Now, our next problem that we would like to tackle here is I don't want to hard code in Beth. I would like to grab that from the URL that we have up here. So let's go ahead and create a function just to handle it. So I'm going to give us some space here, and I'm just going to call it function get query param. And here it's going to go ahead and take in the name. And then here we can go ahead and utilize the URL search params and utilize the get method from it. And now we're able to grab the name. So it's going to look in here. It's going to grab out the search parameters that we put in here. And we are specifically looking for the name right here. Okay. Now that means we come down here and we actually have to say, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and we'll do a get query param. And we say, hey, we want to look for the name attribute that we have up here. And now we see that it has dynamically changed to Jeanette. Now, we do want to prepare for the case of maybe name is not up here. And so we can actually say, if this happens to be null here or undefined, then let's go ahead and say special. We'll say someone special here. Okay. And that way, if this happens to be omitted from it, we see that you're loved someone special. Okay. So that's how we can add a little bit of a default there. Okay. All right. Next is let's go ahead and tackle the hearts. and how we're going to create the hearts and everything. So let's go ahead and move on to that function. Right, so time to create a function here called create heart, and that's going to be responsible for generating just a single heart. Let's show you how we can do that, and then we're going to show you how we can randomize where it is landing on the page, and then we're going to create a lot of them. So let's see what we need to do. So here I'm just going to call this function create heart, and again, doesn't take any parameters inside the parentheses there. And if I can spell function right. Now, inside here, we want to do a couple things. We want to create the div element for the heart. So we can do that with a simple document.create element, and then we supply it with what element that we want to create. All right. Now, the next thing that we want to do, and again, all of this is just happening in memory right now, nothing associated with the page quite yet, but we do want to give it that class list of heart. So the way to do that is now that we created this element, we can utilize the class list, and then we can add on the class name that we would like. And again, we've been working with the .heart this entire time. So that's the class that we want to apply to get this to work. So after we've done that, we would like to have it appear on the page, right? And for now, I'm just going to work with, hey, let's just get it to maybe on the center of the page, and then we will work on creating the randomness. So we can do something like this. Because it is absolute, we can do heart.style.left, and we want to set that equal to, and for now, I'm just going to do D, and I'm going to add the plus sign here, and then I'm just going to do VW. Okay, this is going to convert it to a string for us naturally, but eventually I'm going to want to apply some randomness to this, and you'll see why I did it this way. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do on here is we'll do document.body and append the heart, and then what we would like to do with this is call it down here to see if it worked. So we're going to do this. We're going to go create heart, left and right parenthesis. And notice that we do have a falling heart. And just think if we were to have multiple hearts on here, they're both falling at the same place, doesn't help us any. But what if we came in here and instead of 50, we want to utilize the whole space of 100, but we want to utilize a random spot. So we're going to do math.random, left and right parenthesis, and then we want to multiply that by 100. And that's going to give us a random spot for it to fall down. All right. So let's see what else we need to do. So notice that anytime I refresh the page, I'm getting new positions for the hearts. And after a certain amount of time, we would just like these to just stop, right? And we can do this by doing the following. We can say, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and set a timeout. And we want to remove it from the body. And hopefully after 5 seconds, you'll see that it does in fact go away. So again, we need to also delay some of this, as well as maybe create some animation of based upon the heart where we're calling it, maybe the animation down that it falls can be changed as well. And so if we can come in here and do this, notice that whenever we refresh here, we're getting them to start at a different time as far as how long does it take for them to fall, right? And that's because we're applying a random number here. We're multiplying by 2, so now it's between 0 and 2, and we're adding 3 here, and that gives us a range here of 3 to 5 seconds that these are going to be differing by. Now, we don't want to go ahead and clog up this function here by just keep duplicating this over and over and over, right? And what we can do is we can create a loop, and maybe we'll do 50 hearts, and just have a timeout, so that way it will delay the start time of these hearts that are being generated to apply some sort of randomness to it, even though we are going to be utilizing this loop and increasing the time that this create heart function is going to be started each time. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's go ahead and just create a simple for loop here. And I'm going to get rid of these create hearts. And I want to do this 50 times. And I'm going to utilize our loop interval number to help manage the time delay before we start a new heart. And so you're going to have to play around with however that you like yours to be. But for this one here, it's a real quick way to say, hey, let's loop through this. We're going to do 50 generations here. And each time we go through this, hey, we're on loop number 1 times 100. All right. So then now we're at 100 milliseconds that it's being delayed. Right. And so that's what you kind of want to think about. This gets to 50 times 100. You do the math, and that's how long of a delay it is going to be. And so that's how we can spread out the heart creation upon the refresh. Okay. All right. So that is the completion of the JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And feel free to continue watching if you would like to go ahead and put this on to your CodePen. All right, that's what we're going to do next. All right, so how do you get your code from Visual Studio Code over to CodePen so that way you're able to utilize this for your significant other? And if we head over to CodePen.io, you can go ahead and log in, create yourself a login, and then you should see this little link right here where it says pen. We can click on it, and it's going to generate us a new pen. I would recommend you come in here and you give it a quick title here, and I'm just going to call it Valentine Crush. Okay. Then in here, we have 3 blocks that are kind of separated here for us. We have a HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, the HTML one, super duper easy. All we have to do is come over to it, and we're going to highlight just the stuff that's in the body, no JavaScript. Okay, we're going to omit that tag. So it's just 2 lines of code. We come over here, and we want to paste it, right? So let's come over here and paste it into here. Now, if things look a little wonky, you can always come over here and hit the format HTML, and that should kind of make it look a little prettier for you. The CSS, you can go ahead and in your Visual Studio Code, your code editor, we can actually copy all of this, and we can come over to our CSS and paste it there. Okay, so that should give you all of the styling. And then the last part here is the JavaScript, and we're going to go ahead and copy all of it and head over to our CodePen and paste it. Now, the last part on here that we need is we need to go ahead and save this. So we're going to save it. Okay, now that it's saved, now down at the bottom, you'll see, go ahead and see if I can get down there here for us. All right, so down at the very bottom, you'll see that we have this little button down here, right? This is where we want to go. We want to go ahead and click on it. Once you do that, you will now have access to your normal browser. It's going to show all the way with everything. And the thing that you need to do to the URL, let me go ahead and show you it. So you'll see this little URL at the top. This is where you're going to add your question mark, and then you're going to give it a name. And we can do Beth again, and go ahead and hit the enter key, and we should see your special someone show up here. Again, whatever name you put up here will display on there, and you'll be able to send this to your special someone. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, I'm Rob with Pre-Code Camp, and we'll see you in the next lesson.